Hello, Legend of the Samurai here with the Clavis T-20. This is a high pin count dimple lock from Japan. It has up to 20 pins arranged in 3 rows, left, top, and center, with the corresponding bittings on the key, and they cut many more positions than are actually populated. And this lock has 16 pins installed, presumably for mastering. Like other high pin count locks, there is no warding in this, but space is still an issue because all of those pins actually touch each other, and they do like to use zero lift pins, which are spooled, of course, so if you accidentally touch them, they will overset. There are lots of security drivers, but also a number of standard drivers in here, and those actually cause slightly more in the way of problems than if they were all security pins, because they don't want to bind initially, and then when they do bind, you have to chase them back and forth until they all set. So, see if I can get this to work, just with a standard flag. And I'm using very, very light tension for most of this. This is a very close-fitting tensioner, so I can go back and forth as needed. So there's a pin on the right I have to set before anything else will go, and then I can find the standards. 1, 2, I think that might... There we go. We have a false set. I had overset that front pin, but it's relatively forgiving. If you back off tension, they'll usually come back out. So now we can go and find all the spools. Looks like I already set that one. Switch to a different flag for the other side. Oh, come on. There we go. Sometimes a standard drops back down. You have to go and find it to keep going. And a lot of these are actually oversetting very briefly, and I have to let off tension to let them come back down. Okay, so hopefully this last pin at the front should be it. And open. So, even though it has all those standard pins in there, it's actually quite a difficult lock to pick. It oversets at any provocation. Alright, so now we will take it apart. Like other Japanese formats, this one did require some modification before it was guttable. There were 3 hardened steel pins in these positions that had to be drilled out. I replaced one with a set screw, and then core slides out. And conveniently, it has sliding Bible covers. They are crimped in place, so originally there are these two crimps on all three of them. If you can slide these out and file those back a little bit, these just become free sliding. So, take care of springs first. Now for so this is one of the mushroom drivers, and there are a lot of them. And this is one of the normal key pins. Does not have the spooling. It does have a divot on the top. I'm not certain what those are there for, because this lock doesn't actually use ball bearing detents. Here is one of the spooled key pins, which is tapered on the top and in the spool, so it'll give you counter rotation in either position. Here is one of the standards. All right, move to the top. And there are actually 8 chambers drilled here. This is a through hole for something that we'll get to a little later. There's a ball detent in the bottom of the keyway. And that's where they insert it. So here's where a bunch of the other standards were. And then these two chambers have these blank pins. They're the same diameter as the tops of the key pins, so they don't actually fall down into the keyway. And I assume that's how they blank off pins for positional mastering. However, in the right side of the lock, there are actually 2 just empty chambers without those, so perhaps they only do it for the top row. All right, right side. And the right side only has 6 chambers for actual key pins. does have an extra 7th, which just has this hardened steel anti-drill pin up front. There is that 0 lift with a trap that'll give you 2 stages of counter rotation. And because it's a 0 lift, they put it under a standard. Alright, and then there's this ball bearing that seems to have been crimped in place because I can't get it to come out. Before I forget, I'll go close on these. Show all of those. And now there are some extra pieces inside the plug. They're all for either centering the plug in the housing or drill protection. But if you do gut one of these, be warned, there are many surprises. So first, there's a plate at the back, and then let's see how many of these attempt to roll away. Okay, they stayed put. So here is a ball bearing coated in graphite on a spring, and that bears on the bottom of the keyway, which acts to keep the plug centered. Other than that, nothing special on the housing. But then on the plug itself, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 ball bearings in little blind holes, and then 2 hardened steel pins in more blind holes, and none of them are lined up except for the 2 pins with the rest of them, and then it also has construction core holes for both the left and the right sides, but not the top. Unlike some of the other Japanese cylinders, this does not have a second step of overmilling, but it doesn't need it. It's plenty hard to pick as it is. And no warding in there. So, I had not heard of this company until fairly recently when I just happened across this lock. The Clavis T-20. It's a very fun lock to pick. Will certainly teach you things about tension control and how to tell if you've overset security pins. I believe that is all. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.